I was afraid that I was going to be between you and your dinner. And it seems to me that now I am in between you and your knives. So at this stage of the game, I want to thank Brett because he was really pushy. I just got invited last week. But it seems to me that when your own people invite you to speak, the dates that they select for you to speak is nothing to worry about. You always show your face where your people want you at whatever time they need you and in the moment that is important. But I think that we all have to congratulate LULAC on their 83 year, but what I tell you, what I congratulate LULAC more than anything is because LULAC taught the United States that we might speak with an accent, but we do not think with an accent. So as I have always said, when I was Surgeon General, the world owes you nothing. To believe that the world is going to treat you good because you're a woman or a Surgeon General is like believing that a bull is not going to hit you because you're a vegetarian. I also learned that service is the rent you pay for living, and that service will set you apart. Serve me to God, serve me to country, and serve me to community. But what I learned more than anything is that when you get to the top of your life, you do not forget your roots, your culture, or your people, or your fall is going to be heard all over this country. But more than anything, I have learned that to succeed in the years ahead, we must unite in putting an end to damaging stereotypes regarding Hispanic in this country once and for all, and remind the United States that to be Hispanic means love of your heritage, with patriotism as one of our Hispanic strongest traits, along with strong work ethic, loyalty to family, and religious faith. We exude all the values typically American. We do not weaken the American fabric, we strengthen it. In this complex society, where family values have become a very hot political issue, Hispanics do not need to proclaim it to the world. We were born family and we will die family. And we will teach this country what Hispanic family is all about, not simply talking values by living them. Señores, ocasionalmente yo stop and think what America would be without Hispanic influence. Sin tacos, sin paella, sin lechón, sin arepa, sin cepilla y sin asados. The fact is that America is being Latinized from New York to Los Angeles to Little Havana to Central Florida. We have become so incorporated into the American fabric that most of our important Latinos are mentioned every day in the news, in television, and the radio. And the average American does not realize that they are ours, not theirs. The likes of El Cid, Cervantes, Clemente, James Olmos, Gabriela Mistral, Gabriel García Márquez, Pablo Casals, Fernando Botero, Oscar Arias, José Martí, Frida Kahlo, Isabel Allende y Rubén Darío. Y peor, hay otros que son verdaderamente nuestros, pero ni los gringos ni ellos mismos saben la verdad. Como Rita Hayworth, Anthony Quinn, Martin Sheen, Joan Baez, Linda Ronstadt, Richie Valens y Raquel Welch. Señores, el que no sale de casa no sabe lo que pasa. Y como si fuese icing on the cake para que les duela, Bernardo Galvez, el gobernador de Louisiana Territory, was the one that provided the army of General Jorge Washington with gunpowder, rifles, bullets, blankets, and medicines. La Escuela de San Agustín, which is a Spanish school, was opened in 1787, the same year that the founding fathers were drafting the U.S. Constitution. Juan de Onate began colonizing New Mexico 22 years before the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth Rock. Señores, as you can see, and contrary to perception, we did not cross the border crossed us. You have heard many times that our zest for life, our family life, the culture, the traditional values are spreading in the mainstream and taking an added meaning on the broader context. You know that the US Census says that we are 50.5 million people, making the Hispanic group the nation's largest ethnic one. 1 out of every 2 people added to the United States population in 1 year happens to be Hispanic. Today, only Mexico has a larger Hispanic population than the United States. We will be 132 million in 2050, 30% of the population of this United States. 1 in 3 and Estados Unidos. Prepare yourselves because, señores, Spanish is and will be spoken here. Colleagues, why can this country realize that a nation of one ancestry and one race is a weak nation? Real solutions demand coordinated efforts. Ignoring the talent of 1/3 of the American population only assures mediocrity. I have the feeling that the stereotyping of Hispanic is only fueled by opinions, so let's give them the facts. Not on the facts of circumstances, like the ones we hear all the time. Hispanic have the lowest educational level. Close to half of the Hispanics under the age of 18 are poor. The per capita income for Hispanics is disproportionately lower than for the rest. Hispanics are more likely to be employed in low-paying jobs. Instead, let's focus on the true statistics of Hispanics. The ones that attest to our accomplishments are courage. The likes of, we are 66% Mexican-American. We are 9% Puerto Rican, 4% Cuban, 14% Central and South American, and 7% of us still do not know to which group they want to belong. So, Hispanics of Mexican, Puerto Rican, and Cuban descent remain the nation's 3 largest groups of origin, according to the census. The next 4 groups are the Salvadorians, the Dominicans, the Guatemalans, and the Colombians. Miami is enriched by their Cubans. Washington by their Salvadorians, New York and New Jersey by its Puerto Rican and Dominicans, and the West and Southwest by its Mexicans. Furthermore, there are 16 states in the United States with at least 500,000 Hispanic residents, and 21 states in which Hispanics are the largest minority group, including Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Oregon, Utah, and Wyoming. The most common name in this United States is Garcia, Rodriguez, Martinez, and Hernandez. And Hispanics participate in the welfare less than any other ethnic group in the United States. Hispanics, men, have the highest participation in the labor force, 69% than any other ethnic group. And the majority of Hispanics' family live with mommy and daddy, not single mothers, 66%. And in the past 7 years, the number of Hispanic elected officials has increased by 30%, and today we have 23 Hispanic members in the US Congress. Similarly, although the unemployment in 2010 was 12.5% among Hispanics, unemployed Hispanics were the least likely to join the ranks of the long-term unemployed, different from the other ethnic groups. Equally as important, Hispanics prefer to work for the private sector, not for the government. And maybe that's why Hispanic-owned small businesses are the fastest growing business sectors, expanding at twice the rate for the national level. But more importantly, 44 Hispanics, most of them Mexican-American, has received the highest military decoration our country can bestow, the Congressional Medal of Honor for Valor Under Enemy Fire. And today, 1.1 million Hispanics are serving the armed forces. On top of that, if you want to know a little bit more statistics, we have a Supreme Court justice, a US Attorney General, 3 astronauts, 105 presidents of colleges and universities, 2 US Surgeon Generals, 23 members of Congress, 4 US Treasurers, 4 members of the Presidential Cabinet, a 4-star admiral, a 4-star general, a Secretary of the Navy. 3.5% of us belong to 500 companies. We have 31 billionaires. 14% of them could be cartel, but I don't care. 22 22 22 Nobel Prize winners, 5 of them for peace, 44 Congressional Medals of Honors, 22 Miss Universe. It could have been 23, but I was on call. Now, and now, more importantly than anything, $1 trillion in purchasing power in 2010 and an estimated 1.3 trillion in 2015. Más respeto, señores, más respeto. Like they said in New York, we are no chopped liver, y en mi pueblo de Fajardo no somos pellizco y ñoco. Now, regarding education, we're doing progress. 62% of graduate from high school and 13% of us from college. But I ask you, how can we achieve a higher number than that when we do not have we have a lack of informational resources which other students have, and we do not have, like information about the true cost of college, types of colleges, types of scholarships, qualifications for entry. How can we succeed when the information deficit is often compounded by strong family ties that pulls us into living with the family, and as a consequence, we attend 2 years community colleges when we could be going to the 4 years one? How can we succeed when Hispanic students, in addition to studying, may work 30 hours just to support themselves, and definitely they always finish in the 6th year rather than the 4th year of college? How can we succeed when there's no money and the Hispanic students are hesitant to borrow because of the ability to sign anything that might make sure that their parents' legal status is known? Hispanics prefer to pay as they go. They do not borrow money. So how can we? But colleagues, not everything is bad news. In the year 2010, driven by a single-year surge of 24% of Hispanic enrollment, the number of 18 and 24-year-old Hispanics attending college rise to 12 million. And as a result, in this country of ours, young Hispanics are now the largest minority group on the nation's colleges campus. Let's tell the world that we really are making progress. With regards to health, we spend $2.1 trillion in health, and 30% of that, about 700 million, is used stupidly. Instead, $1 billion go to unnecessary administrative costs, unnecessary redundant tests, and sometimes 57 million Americans struggle for health, and among them, 34% of them Hispanics. 1 in 4 Latinos do not have a healthcare provider or somewhere to go for having their health care. About the same number do not receive any information about prevention, only in television and in radio. This is important because language and communication barriers can affect the way by which you obtain health care. For example, Hispanics are less likely to visit a mental health provider, less likely to receive preventive care such as mammograms, less likely to be satisfied with the care that they receive. Less likely to be satisfied is the interpreter is not the one they want, and less likely to adhere to treatment if there is a language communication barrier between him and the physician. But more than anything, they will never go to a clinic if they are treated with disrespect. So, and if this is not enough, just keep in mind, please, and I want LULAC to get involved into this, the new healthcare reform law does not allow illegal immigrants to participate in the federal exchanges, even when they have the money to buy in. I have the feeling that in healthcare delivery for Hispanics, we're paying attention solely to language incompetence rather than cultural ignorance. Trust me, if you want to work with Hispanics, then you must not only know the language, but more importantly, you have to know the culture and the traditions of the people under your care. Did you know that Hispanics believe that doctors are to be visited only when you are sick? The idea of going to a doctor when one is feeling well seems odd, and if you're insured, an affordable luxury. For many Hispanics, physical exams and screening seems unnecessary. Hispanic women look at pregnancy as a natural part of life and not as a medical condition. And once they confirm the pregnancy, some of them don't even go for prenatal care. And it is also known that some of our people utilize home remedies such as hierbas, sorbos, barridas, baños. They still feel more comfortable con santeros, espiritistas, y curanderos. So, colleagues, if we are to eliminate health disparities in the Latino community, allow them to talk about our symptoms and beliefs without prejudice or judgment. Remember, Don't tell me what to do unless you have walked a mile on my moccasins. I believe that the time has come to fold the barriers and put them outside the door. We need clear thinking, an absolute end to any self-limiting attitude, a real appreciation of the intellect, the training, and the accomplishments of Hispanics in any field, and an insistent self-appreciation of our worth. In addition, if we're going to achieve success in reducing poverty, increasing education, and improving the health and prosperity of the Hispanic people, we must get involved in our communities and participate in what this great democracy has to offer. The time has come to have a piece of the American pie, and we are 50 million telling them at what temperature we want it baked. We were a minority, and all of a sudden we have a seat in the major leagues. So where do we go from here? To begin, we must first know who are we, because by our own reckoning, Latinos living in the United States do not have or do not recognize a national leader. When asking an open-ended question on a nationwide survey, 64% of the Latinos said that they did not recognize a national leader. An additional 10% said they knew no one. Señores, if we do not know who we are, how do we know where we're going? The problem might be that with so many subgroups, we are talking as multiples of one, more or less like an echo, and echoes are never heard very well. I believe that all of us must unite in a common bond, bridge the differences, and speak with a common voice. And as we do this, we must give America the best of ourselves. But more importantly, we must earn the trust and not the fear of growing populations like ours that is also looking for a piece of the same pie. But more than anything, I believe that to continue to move in the right direction, we must help America understand our Hispanic culture and the way that we Hispanics think. For the longest time, our proud heritage and honorable demeanor has been viewed by some in this country as a sign of weakness. Indeed, for some Hispanics, honor is more important than life itself. It is time for America to understand that for Hispanics, maintaining a sense of honor is the lifeblood of our people, and there can be no true respect without it. As both Hispanics and Americans, we understand very well the words of Benito Juarez, who said, "The road to respect for others is the very road to peace." So America, don't confuse honor with weakness. It's our very strength, and instead, help us close the gap between what we Hispanics have worked so hard to achieve and what honor sometimes will not permit us to claim. I would also suggest that we need to promote equitable partnerships between minority groups at all levels of society. But especially within our inner cities and communities, these partnerships grounded in mutual respect will be, by our example, help the children to grow being proud of who they are. Remember, values are easier caught than taught. Teach your children what it means to be an American, what it means to be a Perez, a Molina. Teach them what to expect of themselves and what the world expects of them. Spend as much time commending as reprimanding. But above all, as we Hispanics strive to be accepted and blended in this community, we must not allow the children to lose their sense of heritage, custom, or traditions, honoring our families and our passionate appreciation for life. Everything that we have to do to improve our lives and that of our future generations must be done with great care for our traditional values. For how can we expect to raise our children to value our customs, our tradition, and cultural traits that shape our individuality when we lose our identity and self-respect? Above all, let's ensure that the current ferocity of political debates regarding social policies in this country does not make Hispanics a political football, useful to liberals, conservatives, or whatever they call themselves, as a mere rhetorical tool to win an election. Politics are rough, I know from experience. But there is never any excuse for turning the human needs and claims of people like us into the hollow promises of aspiring politicians. We should know better than that. So, colleagues, a word of advice. If we want a say in who will lead our community, our school boards, our states, and our nation, we must get out and vote. We finally have a voice. Let's find it and then use it. If you can and do not vote, then you must shut up, stand back at the bus, and do not whine over the outcome of the election. Colleagues, A word of caution. Remember, impatience often precipitates premature actions, and sometimes you lose regardless of how prepared you are to win. Preparation is paramount. So let me share with you some words of wisdom from Dr. Robert Wise that have guided me in the last 3 years, and some of you might be able to identify with. Number one, always be wise and anticipate the Brutus in your camp. Number two, as a chief achiever, great success, the jealousy others feel for him or her will intensify. Number three, your most worthy efforts will be scorned by your peers, for it is they who suffer the most when you excel. Number four, any promotion will require an adjustment on your part, as well as on the part of those who remember you on your former role. Number five, chiefs are often betrayed by those they trust the most. And number six,